Hello everyone, I'm Drachona the Wolf coming at you with a new microphone and a new video. And boy is it gonna be a long one. So I thought I'd do something that no one else on YouTube has done. Let's talk about Black Panther. Now no, I'm not going to go off into some long-ass review of the movie. There's no need to review it. I'm not going to talk about all the bullshit surrounding it because if you have any interest in it, then you already know about it. You've already seen all the crap. You either agree with it or you don't. No, what I want to talk about is actually seeing Black Panther in a theater and what it taught me about the movie Get Out. Trust me, it'll make sense. Seeing Black Panther, and more specifically seeing it with an audience, actually gave me some insight into the kind of people who defend Get Out. Now, don't get me wrong, Get Out is a decent thriller. You know, I mean, it has some moments that are really good. I mean, very dark and very intense. The ending in particular just builds and builds and builds. It gets really intense. All the way up until the final throwaway joke at the end. And I know some people defend it and they say, it's like, well, yeah, but you know, there was humor. Like, you know, no, it doesn't work like that. And I know there are people who defend the comedy in Get Out, but that joke at the end is just absolutely awful. It is a horrible tonal shift. You see what I have to deal with? But specifically what I'm talking about is the social commentary in Get Out. Yes. The movie about people transferring their brains to other people's bodies. Which is kind of the same thing as the movie The Skeleton Key. Yeah, that has good social commentary. According to The Guardian, the thing Get Out does so well, and the thing that will rankle with some viewers, is to show how, however unintentionally, these same people can make life so hard and uncomfortable for black people. It exposes a liberal ignorance and hubris that has been allowed to fester. It's an attitude, an arrogance, which in the film leads to a horrific final solution, but in reality leads to a complacency that is just as dangerous.
You fucking idiot.
I'm actually planning on going into greater detail about my thoughts about Get Out and all the crap surrounding it into another video. I've been meaning to do that for a long time. I just haven't done it. I've debated whether or not I wanted to do it. I wanted to make a video the moment I saw the trailer, just about my thoughts on the trailer. I'll probably just compress all of that into as short a video as I can. I know it's like super late, but screw it. I'm going to do it at some point. But right now, I just want to focus specifically on this social commentary and how it relates to my experience of seeing Black Panther in theaters. Now, I didn't get this perception of Get Out at the time. You know, my analysis was pretty much the same as it is now, which is the kind of people who see this as good social commentary are social justice warrior types. Any of the people I've heard defend this movie all have some kind of ridiculous ideas about race. Now, you can rage against me all you want. You can say that this really hits on something important, even though it's reflective of a very small minority of people in this country. But all I'm going to say is this. What kind of white racist would have no second thoughts about putting their brain in a black person's body? That massive inconsistency alone pretty much blows this whole subtle racism angle out of the water. You know, man, I really don't like black people. Oh yeah? Yeah, but, you know, if I could transfer my brain into a black person's body, I totally would. Like, without even giving it a second thought. So I already knew that the defense of this movie was based on bullshit. You know, like I said, it's just a decent thriller that pretty much fails to squeeze in a bit of comedy. So then, how did seeing Black Panther in a theater affect my thoughts on Get Out? First off, I enjoyed Black Panther. I thought it actually had a couple of very visually beautiful moments, like the vision where he sees his father with the panthers in the tree, with the aurora in the background. That was so beautiful. That was one moment in any movie where I thought, man, I know I'm gonna remember this because it was just beautiful. I mean, it didn't need to look like that. It's not like it added a whole lot, but I'm really glad that they did that because sometimes it's just about looking good. Sometimes it's just art. And I thought that was really cool. It didn't have to have any really deep meaning to it. It just looked nice. I also like the fact that they toned down the comedy for this one, and I kind of feel like maybe they thought they had to because of the subject matter. I enjoy the comedy of Marvel movies. I know that it's different people in different movies, but there's a lot of overlap in the comedy. It can really seem similar between different movies. But like one example that really kind of annoyed me was in Thor Ragnarok, which I thought that was a good movie. But there's a moment where, spoilers, Fenrir, they say Fenris, but Fenrir, the giant mythological wolf, is bounding down the Bifrost. Heimdall is there with his giant sword defending the people of Asgard. It's one of the most mythological and epic moments I've seen in any Marvel movie or pretty much any movie. I mean, the buildup was just so great. You don't get that in Marvel movies, that kind of intense buildup, because he's coming all the way down the Bifrost. So there's time. And Heimdall is standing there. He's ready to fight. And I'm thinking like, yes, we've already seen in Ragnarok a little bit of Heimdall fighting, and he's freaking awesome. He's one of my favorite characters in the movies, even though in the first two, he really doesn't get a lot of screen time. But this is a really awesome development for his character. I also like Idris Elba, but it's a really cool development for his character, and this is an amazing moment. And right before we get to what would probably be one of the best, if not the best, action scenes in the entire movie, Bruce Banner just drops in like a rag doll on the Bifrost, and it's played for laughs. And I didn't laugh. It was so unfunny because I was so excited. I mean, not that this was like a really great moment in any movie, but it was a really cool moment. It reminded me of the last Hunger Games movie where Katniss agrees to go along with President Coin's plan, but in reality, she's going to shoot President Coin with an arrow. I remember my heart was freaking pounding when I saw that, because I'm like, yes, this is awesome. And the drums, the epic ceremony, it was a really cool cinematic moment. It was big. It was epic. And this was one of those moments for me where the buildup was really great. And I wanted to see this epic fight, even if it was just a few slashes before the Hulk came in, between Heimdall and Fenrir. And I didn't get it. All I got was a lame joke. I mean, a horrible joke. Like Kat Dennings level Thor humor. It absolutely sucked. But anyway, so my point is, the humor in Marvel movies can be terrible. Luckily, in Black Panther, even though some of the things that were played for humor, which I'll get to, were terrible, it was still toned down. It was very subtle. It was just down to like a single remark. There weren't any like cheap visual gags or shit like that. Honestly, I was glad that I really liked Black Panther. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still just a Marvel movie. I mean, none of them are masterpieces. Even though it seems like they're getting more into better cinematography, better visuals, and even they're developing the story and the characters a bit better. Even though I feel like he didn't have a significant amount of development, I did like how they handled Killmonger. I mean, they actually made us sympathize with him as a character. It's kind of difficult to find somebody intimidating and sympathize with them at the same time. It was done pretty well. But I like the fact that he actually had some pretty good character development, that we actually saw him as a real person with legitimate problems. But ultimately, the only criticisms that I had of Black Panther were very insignificant things. One thing was, in a movie called Black Panther, I kind of wish that there had been more Black Panther. And I've heard other people say this too. I mean, I know that they wanted to put a lot of focus on the larger cast, and they did have a bunch of different characters, and those characters were all really cool. It's not like I had a problem with seeing them and seeing what they did. They were all cool characters, but I wanted to see more of the Black Panther. I kind of feel like Civil War was more of a Black Panther movie than the Black Panther movie. It's kind of weird, but there was much more of a focus on just him and what he could do as the Black Panther. And it was an awesome introduction. I know that in this movie they wanted to focus on T'Challa, not just him as the Black Panther. They wanted to focus on him and his problems, him becoming king, fighting to be king, and dealing with the problems that Wakanda has. It's like, should we close ourselves off? Should we be open to other people? I understand that, and that stuff is important. I wanted to see more of the Black Panther, like the opening scene, again, the spoilers, I guess. The opening scene where he's in the jungle, where there's like a stray dog and it's barking, and they point the flashlight up at him and he's up in a tree. I'm like, yes, that was cool. I liked that. I want to see more of just that, of him being the Black Panther, like this mystical cat-like superhero in the jungle or anywhere really, just being awesome and jumping around, and I just wanted to see more of that. The only other things that bothered me all came down to writing, and they were usually just like single statements that were often played for laughs. Basically, every single pot shot at white people kind of annoyed me, not just because they were directed at people who look like me, but also because every single one of those lines made no sense whatsoever in the either in reality or even in the context of the film. The two times that they reference colonialism in the movie, one of which is when they just call Martin Freeman a colonizer, those made no sense. Like, do you understand that just because somebody is white doesn't mean that their ancestors owned slaves or were a part of colonialism? Do you get that you can't judge somebody's past based solely on their skin color? Do you get that? I mean, what the hell are you, Ancestry.com? Do you really think, like look at me. I'm clearly some mix of European, even though I'm an absolute mutt. I have all kinds of crap in me, even including, I have a little bit of Native American. I know pretty much everybody in the United States does, but also a little bit of black. I have pretty much anything that you could imagine in me, which is why I'm such a mutt. That's why I look Scandinavian, but I have red hair. I mean, look at the color of my hair. It's blonde, brown, red. I am just an absolute mix of things. The fact that my skin is a tannish, pinkish, yellowish color, it really doesn't mean anything. You would call this white, but it's pretty broad. But are you really gonna tell me that it's like, oh, look at you, you are a lighter skin color. That means that your family, your ancestors, were slave owners and, colonizers. It's like, oh, okay. What if my family were primarily like Irish, and they didn't even come to this country until after slavery was a thing? And of course, if they're from Ireland, then they weren't really a part of, say, British colonialism. Not too many Irish colonists. Basically, looking at someone's skin color and assuming their history is very prejudicial. There's also another word for it, but I'll let you fill in the blank. In another instance, T'Challa's sister, whose name I forget, the completely believable techie genius, it's not that I don't believe that she could be a techie genius. It's just, honestly, a lot of people in movies don't know how to write those kinds of people. It's like watching Big Bang Theory. They don't completely understand how to write those kinds of people. But when they bring in Martin Freeman, she says, another broken white boy for us to fix. And of course, people laughed at that. But immediately I'm thinking, wait a minute. Not even 5 minutes ago, we established that you don't bring in outsiders, that you've never done this before. So what do you mean, another broken white boy for you to fix? I mean, I don't know, maybe they're talking about Bucky? I guess, even though they didn't fix him, they were just basically providing asylum for him, so... And then for people who maybe haven't seen Civil War, they're not gonna get that. Basically, You just spent this time explaining why you don't bring outsiders into Wakanda, so what do you mean another broken white boy? And if you are referring to Bucky, well then what was that stuff about not bringing in outsiders? You've totally done that before. No matter how you slice it, it doesn't make any sense. Last and definitely least, during a moment that was actually pretty different for these kind of movies and very meaningful, because Killmonger was talking about how he really wanted to see a Wakandan sunset, and that was a pretty cool thing. For me, it's even though he was the bad guy, I felt good about him getting that opportunity. They really did a good job of making him seem human, of making him seem like even though he was the bad guy, he was a normal person. He wasn't just evil Batman villain. But the moment is kind of spoiled when he makes some comment about whether or not he would want to be imprisoned or be killed. He makes some comment about his ancestors who jumped off the boat. And of course I didn't say anything out loud. Of course I'm never vocal in movie theaters. I don't cheer, I don't clap, I smile, I might nod, but I'm generally just a quiet person in public. But immediately the thought that came to my mind was, bitch, if all your ancestors had jumped off the boat, you wouldn't even be alive right now. I mean, I got the sentiment, but you could just change the writing and it would make just as much sense. Why couldn't you just have him say, I'd rather die free than live as a slave? Why couldn't you say something like that? That makes complete sense. And it ties back to what you were trying to link to. You were trying to link to slavery. But at least that makes some freaking sense. The whole comment about his ancestors who jumped off the boat, it's like, that doesn't make any freaking sense. Why would you want to be like them? They're not the reason why you're alive. They're the ones who jumped off the boat. Those are not your parents' ancestors. They may be a part of your ancestral family, but they didn't pass on their genes because they jumped off the boat and killed themselves. Like I said, you could still get that point across if you just change the phrasing a little bit. It's a perfect example of wanting to say something just to say it, but not thinking at all about what it is you're saying. So, what does all that have to do with Get Out? Well, like I said, it wasn't Black Panther itself, but rather the audience in the theater that gave me something new to think about in terms of Get Out. Every time they made one of those cheap shots at white people, a whole bunch of people laughed. It didn't matter that it didn't make sense. To those people, it meant something. For them, it did make sense. For the people who weren't white, it was directed at them specifically to make fun of white people. So it didn't negatively affect them. All the social justice crap that I've seen over the past few years has made it clear to me that there are people who see things that just aren't there. The same way somebody reading a poem projects their meaning onto it, these people project their insecurities onto everything. They see racism and sexism in things where it doesn't, and in some cases can't exist. They inject things like gender and race into everything. The same way I didn't laugh at the jokes in Black Panther, I didn't get the social commentary in Get Out. That's because I actually think. I ask questions. I follow the Science Channel's motto of question everything. That's precisely why I don't declare a political party, why I'm not religious but I also don't call myself an atheist, and why I tend to be at odds with the general public. The things that so many people see which objectively aren't there are what divide me from them. I would react the same way if the roles were reversed. That's because I care more about things making sense than anything else. I don't place value on skin color even if other people do because it's nonsensical. And I don't stand for people making generalizations about anything, especially specific groups of people, because it's dangerous. This experience helped me realize what I pretty much already knew but needed to see with my own eyes in person. It's basically the same thing as when I asked Anita Sarkeesian that question at VidCon. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. In doing so, in both situations, I had to come to terms with the fact that these people saw things I didn't see, not because they were more enlightened, but because they wanted to see those things. It's basically like the Mulder and Scully scenario if Mulder never listened to reason and if Scully was a bit more relaxed. Later seasons Scully. These people are seeing ghosts that embody racism, sexism, or whatever else, not because they're actually there, but because they're projecting their insecurities so hard that you can almost literally see them. They want these problems to exist so that they have a reason to be coddled, so they don't have to face reality, as well as a reason to fight so they can feel good about themselves. Originally, I gave these people the benefit of the doubt. I thought that maybe there was something I wasn't seeing. I gave these people more credit than they deserved because even though I'm a realist, when it comes to people, I'm an optimist. I want people to be smart and do the right thing. I still have hope for people like social justice warriors. I want them to have a positive impact on society. I want them to see things for how they are, not just how they want them to be. At the end of the day, these are children who, instead of looking at clouds and imagining shapes, they look at the clouds and think that they know what the shape really is. They take a chaotic, often unpredictable world and project their insecurities onto it until it makes them feel safe and full of purpose. They turn the whole world into a safe space where there's an easily identified villain, an unambiguous cause to fight for, and a whole group of people reassuring you that you matter and you're doing the right thing. The fact is, I will never see what these people see because I have managed to recognize and account for my insecurities. So, yeah, that's what seeing Black Panther in the theater taught me about Get Out. Wasn't that fun? So yeah, if you want to go see Black Panther, then go see it. And don't be surprised if Get Out wins any awards. I'm Drachona, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay, trying out my new Shasta microphone. Just checking to make sure. Yeah, it looks like it's working. So let's try. Hello everyone, I'm Drachona. And then leaning farther back. Hello everyone, I'm Drachona.
And then let's get really close to the microphone. Yeah, let's get all up in that, and maybe I should pop my peas. I think that might be a good idea. I should really pop those peas positively.